We're standing today in my studio, which is a lovely big space with exposed brick, high ceilings, perfect for sculpture and certainly perfect for large scale work. So my work is really based around the land and particularly the commodification of land, especially on this island. The fact that our green spaces are disappearing and we're building out and pushing out wildlife. So I'm a land artist and a sculptor, and I make installation work, mostly all temporary. So I would go onto land and create a work that stays there just to get images, and then I remove it, potentially, mostly always recycle it into another piece if I can. The piece that I created for the Linen Biennale was based on the Endangered Species List for Northern Ireland. And considering we're such a small place, we have 481 species on the list. Things like 67 species of moth alone on the list. So we're losing not only our natural heritage, but we're losing our cultural heritage and some of our old industries, such as linen. So this project was an opportunity to combine both the passion for the fact that we're losing so many animal species, but also to highlight that our cultural heritage and all the beautiful crafts that we have and had are also in danger as well. So this was a cry to people who want to help and to remember and support the species, both natural and cultural, that we're trying to hold on to, or we're certainly trying to revive. I grew up in a house surrounded by linen because most of the females on my mother's side of the family worked in the linen mill in Randallstown, the old bleach linen mill. My old Aunt Kathleen, long since passed, was in the linen mill all her life. She was in the fine needlework department, and she was highly skilled and absolutely and thoroughly loved her work. She was one of thousands of people across this country who worked in the linen industry, thousands upon thousands, and made me grow up with an appreciation of linen and certainly the fine detail and the processes. As a child, I remember going to visit the linen mill and watching the processes and seeing linen drying and the sound and the noise and the heat, but the beautiful product that came from these mills and that went across the world to all sorts of royal houses and all sorts of establishments. When I started thinking about this piece, I wanted it to be a tribute to the linen industry, the Endangered Species List, and also to my family's connection to the linen mills. So I started off in good old-fashioned Northern Ireland style by dyeing the linen in tea, because certainly we can't go through a day without being tea soaked ourselves. So the linen was dyed in tea for 2 days. And then I started to, after the drying process, I started to make marks on the piece. Each mark, whether it's a small dot, whether it's a drawing, whether it's a line, each mark represents one of the 481 endangered species. So they're all on there. And it's been a labour of love, also a labour of sore knees, because the linen has been laid out a bit like it would in the process on a bleaching green. It's been laid out in my studio in long strips, and I have moved slowly along, marking each species off the list as I went. So there are landscape drawings, there are some large-scale images of some of the species, and some species were just a tiny mark. There are also some abstract images that connected to the piece or connected to how I was working that day. And the colours have been quite important. When I dyed the piece in tea, I considered doing just line drawings across the whole work, but it wouldn't really have been a tribute to the wonderful, colourful species we have across this this beautiful country, and so I really went for it full colour. I kind of followed the same process as the pictures I found of the women in the hand-painted linen damask section of the old bleach. They were very delicate with their paint and very subtle. I've been a lot more abstract, and certainly the colours are a lot stronger. However, it's all water-based paint, and my intention is, because the linen is so beautiful and so soft, to boil wash all of the work out of the piece and reuse the linen in a future work. It's a long and laborious process to paint it, but I don't want it now to be rolled up and left in my studio. It will be reused and repurposed in future work, because it's such a wonderful resource. The piece was always designed to be installed outside on the land. It was never made to be a gallery piece. I always had in mind a few places that I wanted to install it, and one in particular was at Parliament Buildings in Stormont, who are in a whole large way responsible for tackling the Endangered Species List. So I got permissions from Parliament Buildings to install the piece there, and got some shots. But I also, probably breaking the law, climbed a barbed wire fence into an old linen mill quite close to me, Hillmount, outside Cullibaccy. And I installed the piece there as well, with the mill in the background, because it's a tribute to the linen industry, and also the Endangered Species List. I also placed it in the countryside around County Antrim, where the species would have once thrived. There are a couple of places that I would still maybe like to place it. There's a ploughed field, a beautiful dark brown ploughed field near me that I'd like to place it, but I'm just waiting on the right weather conditions for that one. But thankfully, nobody said no, apart from obviously breaking into the old linen mill, but I haven't been arrested yet.